Hey, guess what? We're recording now. All right. So I'm Brian and you're TA. And today we're going to make a Rick and Morty API application that's going to give us a list of all of our characters. And this is a sprint review session. So if you run into any questions or something that you don't understand, just stop and say, hey, Brian, I've got a question on this. State your question. I'll try to explain it, and just don't be afraid to interrupt. That's the whole thing here. So um, I'm also starting from scratch. So this is something that if you wanted to code along, you can. It's not usually, most people have a hard time keeping up, but I am recording this and we'll put it on YouTube later. So I always start with a fresh project or a very basic project. Next week, we'll probably step through create React app. And then the week after that, we won't do a create React app. It'll just have like a basic framework of an application. But whenever we're dealing with this, I'm going to start with a regular, normal, blank nothing. So like this folder currently has literally nothing in it. So we're going to start absolutely from scratch. And by the end, we will have an application that's going to get 20 Rick and Morty characters at a time. And I'll have a button at the end that you can click that just says more. And when you click it, it'll give you 20 more characters. And then you can scroll and click it again. It'll give you 20 more characters, etc., until there are no more characters left. So I guess that's the intro. Any questions on what we're about to do, or you're all ready? You can come off mute.
Ready to go.
Ready.
Fantastic. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the touch command to make an HTML file. I'm going to do index.html, and I'm also going to do a JavaScript file called index.js. So this will make two files. If I ls, you'll notice we have two files. Let's go ahead and make one more. And we'll do some CSS as well. Why not? So I'll open up the existing directory in VS Code, which is the code period. Period just means current directory. Of course, it opens on the wrong monitor. Come on. Okay, so we have a very basic HTML file that does absolutely nothing right now. So if your system is configured with the defaults on VS Code, I can just type !tab, and that will give me my HTML template. It comes with compatible with IE Edge in there. I always have to catch myself on that one. And so it's just kind of like a little shortcut to make it so I don't have to type as much. I'm getting old, and carpal tunnel is something I fear, so I try not to type as much. I'm going to go ahead and change our Rick and Morty. So this is the title that's on the tab whenever you're running it. So we're just going to do Rick, and Morty. Yes, there we go. We'll say character list. So if I save this, and I also have live server, I think that we installed that week 3 of unit 1. And normally on like your sprint challenges and things like that, you're not going to be using live server. So on this, I'm doing it because of expedience more than anything. Normally, you would do your npm install and then npm run start, and in another tab, your npm run test to see if you've passed your tests for your sprint challenge. On this, we're just going to be doing it this way because I don't have to do any JavaScript selections or anything else like that. I'm just putting in Axios in my HTML file instead of installing it. And that's the only major difference between what we're doing here and what we're doing the other direction. So if you were able to get your Axios running, I guess today, then you should be able to get it running on the Sprint. It's the same basic process, like npm install Axios and then import Axios. Any questions on that? All right, I'm going live. So currently, the only thing we have is titled says Rick and Morty character list. If I inspect, you can see that it has installed a script with a whole bunch of stuff that nobody wants to read. We have our head, which has everything that we had in this file. And our body should be, well, pretty darn empty. So I'm going to go a little tiny bit semantic. I'm going to put in a container. So this is a div class container. And what I use, I typically try to avoid doing anything directly on the body. So you'll find this as a common pattern. And sometimes you'll see div class root or div ID root or things like that. And it is the a place to start building out your components and things like that. And we'll use a lot more of that in React as well when we next week. So React will let you attach something to body, so like your components and things like that, but it'll complain. Or at least it did way back when I was experimenting with trying to get it where you didn't have a div or whatever for a container or a root. So the container also allows me to like center things on the page and put max widths and things like that. There's a lot of good reasons to put a container around your I guess your main page. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little header. I'm going to do a main, which is sort of showing my age. That's kind of out of style. A lot of people will just start doing like a section here instead of a main, and it'll just be like a section that is like the main body of the page. But I think main is a little more semantic, and I'll have people argue that till the end of time. I'm older, so I can do what I want with it. So if I save this and I go back in, we can see that there still isn't anything in here. I can open up the body, open up the container, and we've got a header, main, and footer, and there's nothing in there. So it's not going to do anything for showing anything yet. So next thing that I might want to do is I might want to link up into my JavaScript file. So for right now, I'm just going to do a console log. This is index.js, right? So for right now, if you'll notice, there's nothing in our console because we haven't connected our index.js to our index.html. And a lot of people think that it's going to be like a, like a link CSS like that, but it's not really a link CSS that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a script. And then this is going to have a source of this index.js. Since it's in the same file folder that we're in, we just need to type in index.js. So now when I save this, now we'll say have a console log of index.js. Have I lost anybody? You can come off mute if you want me to slow down or have a question.
Brian, so you didn't have to what is it? Write in dot slash.
You can,
then in there. Okay.
because like you'll find, you know, dot slash is saying that I'm going to the current folder, which is here, and going current folder slash index .js. So that's what the dot slash says, is just that we're in our current folder. In this specific case, yeah, that's fine. You'll find the dot slash is more useful in areas where you have a web server and things like that. So this will work fine. It shouldn't break anything when I say that.
Okay.
So I was just being lazy, I guess. You could, I think in this specific case, you could also do slash index.js and it would still work, because it's going to the slash index dot JS like that. So you can see that we've got a console log index.js. So literally it's just going to whatever our web address is slash index.js. So, and that doesn't work really that well when you're dealing with with React, since it's compiled, it will want like this type of syntax where you're doing dot slash, because you're wanting to tell it where it is, because it might be in a completely different folder. You know, some uglier implementations might not even be in the project, where you have to go out of this, like up 3 folders and then go into a different folder, which is a really bad implementation, but I've seen it, I've done it. But yeah, so this is just saying where the index file is. In this case, dot slash says it's in my folder that this file lives in, so index.html. All right, so we go back to index.html. This is working, so that's good. So a couple of things is I'm going to go ahead and grab this header and then try console logging it. And it's going to say either null or undefined. And there's a couple of reasons why, and I'll let you guys try to answer it. So first thing that I want to do is store it. So we're going to say header is equal to document query selector, and I'm just going to grab the header with no dots or IDs or any of that kind of stuff, because it's not a class, it's not an ID, it's not anything else. And I'm going to save this, and oh, I saw it. And we're going to console log whatever's at document query selector header. So if I save this, it's going to say null. And can anybody tell me why it isn't grabbing this this header element? Anything that you can come up with. It could be correct or not. It doesn't matter.
Isn't header like supposed to act like a container? Isn't it like semantic?
No, that's probably a good possibility, but I don't think that's the actual case. So what if I were to move, say, this script, say, underneath header and then save it?
Oh, you didn't defer the script.
Mm-hmm. So now I can pick up header, and it shows that there's a thing there. If I refresh it, it'll come up better. So there we go. So the thing is right now this script can access header, but it can't access main or footer because of its position in there. So we can defer it, and this will run after this page has been rendered to the screen. So it waits until the browser is done painting it to the screen, then it runs the JavaScript after it's done. In this case, it works much better than putting the script at the end of the page, which is the other reason why, if you look inside of here, like they have this script in here, the code is injected by a live server. This is like the thing that's looking to see if it's refreshing. So like if the page if we save the HTML file or the JavaScript file, it's going to refresh the page, or even the CSS file, I think it will do. So yeah, so defer. If your scripts are not working, if you're having to actually go through and do it this way, that's, you know, that's probably why is that you haven't deferred the script. I don't think that I'm pretty sure that we don't have to do that in the sprint challenge, at least not the last time I looked at it. So currently, I think that Webpack loads all of your scripts and does them in a fairly decent way, so you don't have to put any of this stuff in there. If you do and you're not able to connect to something, it's probably because it's not deferred. Any questions on deference? I'm going to say that's a no. All right, so now let's get into some meat and potatoes of actually doing something with this. So I'm going to leave this console log in so that we know that we're doing something. So I might put a comment here and say header stuff. And what we might do is add in a new element. So we might, or maybe we'll call this title. The page title sounds better. So this would be header dot create element. And we're going to make this an H1. Right? So what we've done is we have selected the header in our document query selector. We have made a new element inside of the H1, or we have made a page title of H1. And if we just save this doesn't do anything yet. We haven't told it where to put it. So like we want to put this in our header, but we've never appended it to anything. So what we can then do is we can append this page title to our header. Actually, this is going to be document created. I'm losing my mind. I just got done typing a bunch of this stuff today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do header dot not create element. I'm losing my mind. Append child, and we're going to put in our page title in here. So we've selected the header. So we're wanting to select this, or our header tag. We are making a new element that's just floating out in nowhere land right now called H1. And then we are attaching it to header by doing an append child. So if I save this, now you'll notice this header has an H1. The H1 doesn't have any information in it yet. So let's put a little bit of information in their page title. And let's just do text content, and we're going to equal this to a string of Rick and Morty character page. And now we have a Rick and Morty character page inside of our header. So that is something that we could probably go and turn this into some sort of a function. If we were to say, call this header component. And let's pass in a selector. So what I mean by selector, I mean this string right here, right? So if I move this So all of these are inside of here. What I can then do is change this from header to selector. And this will grab whatever we pass in to selector and generate a page from that. So let's say that I invoke this header component and I pass in a string of main instead of header. Now, if we open up the body, you'll notice the main has the H1 here. I could also put it in whatever order I want, and I'll still put it in here. So we've got one in main, we've got one in footer, and then I can even put it in header if I wanted to. Probably is where it's going to live. So I can put this anywhere that I want on the page by transferring this over into a function. So this is getting kind of into day 3 stuff, but this is a pretty common pattern here where you're going to have a selector. It will grab the selector from the document. It's then going to make the component. It's going to append the component to that selector and then do whatever else it needs. So put the text content there. Does it make sense to put it in main and footer? No. So we'll just get rid of that. Did I lose anybody?
No.
Okay, excellent. Speak up if anybody is. Okay, so we're going to get rolling on kind of the cooler part, which is our Axios stuff. So since I'm not running a node package or anything else, I'm going to do a search for npm Axios. And notice how it's npmjs.com. And I'll check on Axios. And normally you would use this npm I Axios to put it into the project. Since I'm not really running a server on this, I'm just running the built-in live server, the Visual Studio Code that we had you install. It doesn't really access Axios the way that our Webpack server or something else that has a server that can utilize that. And there's a lot of reasons why I don't really want to deal with that on this. It would take me an extra 30, 45 minutes of configuration, and it's not even worth it. But there is a way of me doing this using the content delivery network. And so what I can do is I can just put this script in here right at the top of our index.html. And just by habit, I'll put it above, right above our index.js. And now, because this is run before this, we'll have access to Axios as a variable. So I'll save this. This will refresh. And so, like, if I just did, Axios.get, and we'll do we'll do 1.7, the same address here, 127.0.0.1:5501, because this is mine / index.html. And I just hit enter. It's able to run this. I guess the result says that there's this stuff. Here's the data that came from it. And it looks like we got our page. It's ugly, but it works. So, I mean, you can run any of this stuff inside of the console if you want. If it's a variable, you can access it. As a matter of fact, you could probably do, what was it, header component? Header component, and then will be main. And this should run header component and put another one inside of our main. Yeah. And you could even, you know, go grab main, and then you can do main.text content equals an empty string, and it'll delete it. I don't know that that's necessarily good for the memory management or not, but yeah. Okay, now I know I've lost some people. I started doing stuff into the console itself. But the console is just JavaScript. You can do whatever you want in here. It's actually pretty powerful. And some companies like Google want you to go through their thing. There's little games and things you can play in there if you're smart enough to get into their web page, and a lot of fun things you can do.
On google.com.
Yeah, on google.com or some of their sub pages or things like that. There's all kinds of things, but you've got to research to get into it.
Yeah. Oh, and
So,
then mess around in the console.
Yeah, mess around in the console and start logging out what different functions do and things like that. Everything.
Oh, so you would just look at, yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Another one that used to have it, I don't know if they do anymore, is XKCD. They have like some of the worst looking HTML, and they do it on purpose just to irritate geeks like me. So, but yeah, they've got some JavaScript stuff in the background that you can play with as well. They're hyper geeks, I guess. So anyway, so that's that page. So now we can access Axios. What I might do is we might do another another variable that we're going to set to a function. We call this main component, and you can kind of see the same pattern emerging here, where we're passing a selector, and we're doing something like we'll call this just a little section. So if I append this, we're going to have a section inside of our main. Well, I have to invoke it with the main. So we'll say const main component. Invoke it with main. Main component. Oops, sorry. I don't need to redefine it. I just need to invoke it. Showing my age. All right, so if we go into main, now you can see we have a section inside of there. So we've now made two components. We're just not doing much with it right now. So let's do something with Axios. not ActiveX. So first thing is I need a website that we can get. Luckily, we've got this lovely Rick and Morty API. If you haven't seen it before, it's fantastic. What I'm interested in is getting a list of characters here. So getting all characters. So let me just say that if I go to this page, this is a GET request that we just put into this bar. So when I go to rickandmortyapi.com/API/character and I hit enter in a web browser, that is an HTTP GET request. So that is literally like an Axios.get. I'm not using Axios, but you get my point. So Axios is just a tool to be able to get information from a web page. And you can also do other things, but for right now, GET is what you know it will do. So if I take a look at this information, let me make this a little bigger here. So the first thing you'll notice is this right here is your result object. Inside of that result object, there's another object called data. So I can tell that it's an object because it's got this curly bracket. As for res.data, result.data, for right now, you're just gonna have to trust me that it's result.data, and I'll show you a little bit more here in a second. But whenever I'm looking at a web page in a browser, it's always result.data that I see. So this is literally what's coming back, is this whole huge monster object thing that scares people. So the first thing is that if I use these little plus or minuses on here, and if you're not seeing this, if you're just seeing a wall of text, I'm using a tool called JSON View. It's spelled JSONVUE. You can just Google search Chrome JSONVUE, and it's a Chrome extension, works great. If I shrink these down, you can see that this object just has two keys. So we've got result.data.info and result.data.results. So if I look in info, it's kind of interesting. This is where we're going to get our neat little page information. So result.data.info is giving us how many characters there are, how many pages there are, how to get to the next page, and if there is a previous page, it will tell us how to get to the previous page. So this is how we're going to make it so we have a more button, so we can click on the more button and get the next every single time. But we're going to do it in a slightly different way. So on our results, if you'll notice, it's a square bracket. So anytime you see a square bracket, that means that you can map for each, do an I, whatever. It's an array. So all of these are going to have the exact same schema, which is the same shape of data. So you might hear people say, oh, it has this shape of data. Shape of data is basically the same thing as a schema, is the same thing as saying, hey, everything in this array is the same. It may not have the same data, but it has the same shape. So what I mean by shape is it always has an ID, a name, a status, a species, a type, a gender, etc., image. Those are the ones that we're really interested in for this example anyway. So this object is always going to have this type of information in it. So location, origin, all of this stuff is going to happen on every single one of these characters. So that is your schema, or your shape of the data. So I know that if I loop over this array, I'm going to be able to get a name, I'm going to be able to get a species, I'm going to be able to get a gender, I'm going to be able to get an image. I'll be able to, I guess, get a URL on how to get to that information if I wanted to. I'm gonna get all of that information every single time. So all I need to do is just copy this, And then I can put this into this axios.get. Oh, I did the wrong key again. I flip between PC and Mac way too often. So Axios is going to return a promise, and I can either assign a variable and equal it to axios.get, and that should be the promise inside of like an async function. I find that the then works a little bit better. So then is just a little method that comes off the end of it, and it's going to pass whatever information came back from axios.get into the callback function that we put right here. So this right here is just a function. It's a immediately executed function. And we're going to be passing in result. So today, result is actually called Barbie because I don't care what I call it. It could be a single character if you want, so long as it's not a number or a dash or something that's illegal in JavaScript, you can call it whatever you want. It makes more sense to call it result or res. But in this case, we don't care. So we're going to console log Barbie because that's our word. Anytime that we write a function like this parameter here is always our name. We can call it whatever we want. That's loops, React, whenever you hear props. Props, you could do anything you want. So props are one of the things that strikes fear into everybody. And it's just an object. Literally, if you just type the word props inside of there, it's just going to be equal to an object. And then you just got to drill into the object. So if I go back over here to the console, you can see all of this stuff. I might even go as far as to say crap, stuff that you don't need, right? The only thing that I'm interested in is this data object. If you look at this data object, you're going to see that we have info and results. If I go back over to this, we have info and results. So Barbie.data is what's the meat that we want to get to. So let's console log Barbie.data and see what happens. Okay, so now if you notice, we don't have any of that junk that we didn't want before. So now we have our info and we have our results. So this console log here is giving us the exact same result as what we got from the browser here. So it's always res.data, or in this case, Barbie.data, because we named it Barbie. Any questions on why res.data or Barbie.data? I'm using Barbie as an extreme example. It's an anchor. I think I've lost some people. Nope, I guess no questions. So we'll continue on. Tough crowd, tough crowd. So what if I wanted to be able to reuse this Axios somewhere else? We could actually turn this into yet another function and maybe return some data that we want from it. So, so that we don't have to rewrite this multiple dozens of times. Like say that we wanted a different page number. So if you notice, if we go here to info and I click on this link, it puts this page 2 up top. And if I go back to page 1, well, now we're back to page 1. This is the same thing. Or if I go to page 42, this is page 42. So I can go back and forth by editing this number, but you know, let's kind of take this and roll with this a little bit nicer. So let's get rid of our double quotes, and we're going to do a string literal here. And let's make a new variable. So let page equals 1. So this axios.get is going to look for this page number and return back whatever page is in here. So if I save this, we should expect information from page 1. So here's next, previous is null, but if I go and change page to 2, I save it, you'll notice that if I go into here, our previous page is page 1, our next page is page 3, and our results are different. So we don't have regular Rick and Morty in here. We've got Aqua and Armageddon and blah, 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 all kinds of characters that are different. And IDs don't start with 21, for an example, or start with 1. So let's go ahead and break this out into its own component. And we'll say, call this get characters, for an example. Or probably get page probably would be more semantic. And we're going to pass in a page number and paste this in. So now what I can do is I can just, in our main component, I can just do a get page and then put in whatever number I want, and it will technically work.
I have a quick question about that real quick.
Sure.
How do you know where to put the Axios call?
So the Axios call is going to happen where you want the data to be. So in this specific case, it's in the main component. So like, let's say that I have a header and it just has like, only like nav items and things like that. I don't want to put an Axios call inside of that. In the main component, I'm expecting to put all of my characters inside of the main, inside of the index. So I'm wanting to have inside of here all of my characters. That's where they're going to live. So the main component is going to make a section, and we're going to be looping over the data that we get back from get page.
Okay, thank you.
So if I just return Barbie.data, this is going to give us a place to store, or this is giving us a way to capture the data from this function here inside of the main component. So I might do something like const current page equals get page 1, and I could actually even do page, and it will give us whatever pages is up here as our initial state. So if I wanted to get page 2, what we might do is make a component on our footer that says more. And we haven't even gotten to the point where we're displaying any new characters. We just want to see that console log change. So basically call get page with a different page number. And then update this page variable. Or update the page variable and then get the new page. So let's do that right quick. So let's write a I'm going to do this more. And we're going to do const footer. So I'm going to basically follow the exact same pattern as what we did up top for the other two components, where I'm passing in a text value for selector, and I'm getting that text value back from the document query selector. And in here, we're going to do footer. So we have a selector. Let's go ahead and put in a button. So a new create element, and we're just going to call this a button. And the button's going to need some sort of text to make it so it's clickable and that people know what it is. So we'll do button dot text content, and we'll say more. And then we need to append it to footer. So footer. All right. So we got a more button. It does nothing. What we can do is we can make a event listener. So who remembers how to do an add event listener? So on the event listener, I'm probably going to want to click listener, and then some sort of a function to run whatever is in that click listener. So at this point, I'm just going to do console log paid, and maybe, I don't know, increment page. So page, there we go. So if I click on this button, I should see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I can click until the end of time. Right? So what if instead of console logging the page, what if we passed that page number into this get page function? So get rid of the console log and do get page and save it. So now get page, when I do the next one, you'll notice that we still get that object back, but our results are now the second page. If I click on it again, I'll get the third page back. This one is now 41. If I click it again, I get the fourth page back. You can see it's 61 now. So all of these are different results back from Axios. Hopefully I haven't lost anybody.
Couldn't you technically put most of this in one function since you're not going to reuse it?
No, I'm already reusing, say, this get page function.
Oh yeah, the get page one, of course, but the other components, like technically, couldn't you?
I mean, I guess technically, yeah, you could, but
Just be sloppy.
it would be difficult to do. So like the footer component is doing footer things, the main component is doing main things, the header component is doing header things. So like, for an example, if I wanted to do like a pagination or pagination or whatever they call it, where you've got the page numbers at the bottom and like a next and previous button, I could do that with like the header, for an example. So we could just modify the header and we wouldn't have to worry about any of this stuff. So the components are so that you can split out things and organize your code logically, because like this could go into its own file if we wanted to. You know, this page probably not. So these would be, because the main and the footer are kind of connected, those would probably be in the same file. But like the header could be split out into a different file. Just call it like header.js and call it right here, you know, like put another script, source equals header.js. Defer. But yeah, you could technically put everything into one function, but it's not worth it in this case.
Yeah, in this case, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm not trying to go into any of the edge cases today on this, where we've got, you know, 42 pages. You can go to 43 if you want. And so I'm not trying to push the envelope on this one, since this one's getting, it's maybe not super long. We're only into it about an hour. Yeah, so we're now at the point where we're finding ways to print things to the screen. So this is where we're going to start doing like a character component. Right? And inside of the character component, we're probably going to have an object. So we'll say character. I don't really like calling it character. Let's do people. No, yeah, character. There we go. So this will be a character object. So if I console log, not assert. Come on. Our character, like this. What happens if I just pass in current page? So we'll do character component, current page. And get rid of some of these console logs here. So we don't need Barbie data right now. Any other console logs? I think that's it. Okay, so if I let's see here. May have to take a little break. You guys want to take a 5-minute break?
Up to you.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to do a quick 5-minute break. I'll throw a timer on the screen.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Can you switch to this code?
Sorry, I had to check on some things. It's raining and I didn't realize it. Heard some thunder and usually passes us by. I'm like, oh no, I need to make sure. So anyway, everybody back?
Yeah. Well, I am.
Excellent. So we've got at least a few people back. So, I think I'm running into a weird problem here with this current page thing. So I'm just going to run current page directly inside of character component, cut and paste it and see what is coming back from that. And this is some of these weird vanilla JavaScript-y type stuff that I run into. And get page, I'm going to character component. It should be console logging the character. I'm going to do something a little weird. It's not, yeah, so we're not returning the promise there. I'm trying to see why we're not getting that back. Ah, the lovely, lovely. Let's just make something from scratch. All right, so I'm gonna have to rethink this for a second because I'm not getting back what I think I'm getting back. So give me a second. You're gonna watch me troubleshoot for a second. And so we should have only one console log. I'm going to call or invoke get page with page number. That's giving us back some data. We're not able to return it. So I think probably since I'm doing this a little bit differently, I think I want to do a return. I have to put the return there as well, because this is just returning it to the then. This is going to be returning it from there, I think. So there's that. So let's see what happens when we console get page. All right, so that's giving us our promise pending. Isn't exactly what I want. So it's giving us some results, but I think I'm going to have to rethink the exact way that I want to do this. So I don't think I'm going to get page. I'm going to do get characters just to simplify this. And we're going to only do characters with this. So we're going to do some different things. Sorry, we're going to change gears without getting into some really crazy code that would just drive me up a wall. So we've got Yeah. So what we're going to do is this is getting into some promises and things like that that I think is probably a little too advanced to really dig into. So I'm going to kind of do it in a kind of hacky way. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass in two things: is what page we want, and we're going to pass in the selector where we want to put the characters. So yeah, I think we're probably going to do this in two axioses before I get a little too confusing for you. So we're just going to do this two places because this is going to get kind of stupid. So I'm going to, instead of breaking this out and having dry code, we're going to do it like this. Sorry, I think I went a little crazy. Apologies. So the idea that I have right now is I'm going to do an Axios get instead of the main component. And I was trying to break this out, and it does a lot better if I'm doing this kind of stuff in React, since React does a lot of things, makes a lot of things much easier. When you're doing things in JavaScript, like vanilla JavaScript, everything you just have to step through one thing at a time, and you're having to deal with a lot of things. So as you get more practice with it, it gets better and better. But even for a simple project like this, there's a lot of things that I probably have to explain and go through before I could get it working. And I think they would turn it into like a 3 or 4 hour project just to remove, like, say, 6 lines of code. So in this specific instance, this is going to be a lot easier. So inside of my then, I'm going to call my character component. And I'm going to pass in my Barbie.data result. So if I save this, was it results? Sorry, result plural. My bad, typo. All right, so now if I'm console logging out, so basically I'm running character component. As my argument, I'm passing in the data from Barbie data results, which is this here. So it's an array. This Barbie data results is being passed in, and it's being called character, and it's console logging out character. So it's not exactly the type of data that I want, because this is an array, and I want to loop over this array and just get one of these characters at a time. So what I can do is I can map that information. So I can go Barbie.data.results, and I can do a for each. So now a for each is just a function. Inside of that function, it takes another function as a callback, and it's going to pass in a few different things. So the first thing is the element that is in here. So if you notice, this right here is the first element, is this object. So if it was a string, it would be a string. If it's an object, it's an object. If it's an array, it's an array. It just depends on what comes back. In this case, it's an object. So if I were to console log element, I save this, you'll notice that it gives me a whole bunch of console logs. So here's the first time that it console logged, so it looped. Second time that it console logged, it looped. Third time, etc. So what we can do is we can actually just move our character component in here. Instead of trying to log out the entire array, we can just do the element that it's coming back with. And I'll get rid of this console log because then we'll have doubles. So if I save this, it'll still console log it because of this line here, but it's console logging the character. So each time that it console logs, it's giving us this type of information. So if I wanted to make it so that we're displaying the character name, I'm probably going to want to have some way of storing that information, like in an article or something. So we want an element called article. And we're going to set this equal to a document.create element. And we're going to make this an article. So if I just return this article, it's not going anywhere right now. We're just calling this function here. We're invoking that function right here. It's making a new article and it's just taking up memory out of nowhere. We've got to be able to append it to our section. So what we can do is append child or character component to element like that. So we're passing in whatever came back from this return here, this return article. We're passing it in right here and appending it to our section. So what that looks like in our main is if I open up section, I should have 20 articles. They're not doing anything, but I just wrote 20 lines of code in 3 because it's able to duplicate it. So now that's not super interesting. Let's make a header 2 with the character name. So we're going to do character title is equal to document.create element. And this is just going to be an H2. And let's do, sorry, we'll just do character title. And we're going to add in some text content. So we have this object here called character. And if I look at the data that's coming back on our console, we've got character dot created episode, gender, ID, image, location, name, origin, species, status type, and URL. So probably we're going to want name is my guess. So we're going to do character dot name. And then the last thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to append it to article. So we'll do article dot append child, and we're going to put character title in there. So it shows up directly underneath. So if I save this, now if you notice, we have a list of characters here. So what if we were to copy this Axios get here? And what if we were to put it in here instead? So what this is going to do is when you click the button, it increases the page number. It does an Axios get, the exact same way that this one up here does. So what I was trying to do earlier was to save this 6 lines of extra code, and it backfired on me. Welcome to live coding, right? So what if I were to click on more? What do you think is going to happen? Somebody gets to come off mute.
Should go to the next page.
Should go to the next page, and it should append to this list. So Anson My Eyes Johnson will not be the last thing on the list. Oh, it blew up. Section is not defined. So if you notice, I also need to grab my section, which is going to be a different query selector. So let's see here. I guess we'll do here. So let's do const section, because this isn't a variable in this scope. So this scope is this function right here. It doesn't exist. It can't go up here and say, oh, well, you know, section came from main component. It's this section over here is only scoped to this right here and nothing else. So now what we can do is we can make a new variable and equal this to query selector. And I know that I don't have 2 sections, so I'm just going to do section here.
Oh, so you're just gonna grab it from the HTML that you generated?
Yeah, why not? It's already been generated, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when I click on the button, what it's supposed to do is it's going to grab whatever the section is, the first section in that. It's not robust. It's not a robust solution, but it is the solution we have right now.
Yeah.
And it should append to the end of this list. I'm pretty sure this will work now. So let's click on it. Yeah. So now we got Aqua Morty. If I click again, we've got all the way down to Calypso, Creepy Little Girl, Bubonic Plague, Evil Summer Clone. I'm not going to say that. Hunter's Father. Jessica. Oh, poor Jessica. Lawyer Morty. And et cetera, et cetera. So I can just keep clicking more, and it's just adding to the bottom. So part of the reason why I just did the name first is because this will get a lot more interesting once when we start adding photos in CSS. So this right here is technically enough to get you past the sprint, but it's a really boring page. So whatever you're passing, or, you know, in the sprint, you're most likely going to have something similar to this, where they're going to already have this written, this component, or like this component written, where they're sending you in a selector, and you still have to write your character component. Typically, anytime you have a component, you're going to want to return only one thing. So you're not trying to return an entire list of things. You want to return one thing at a time into here. So that's why I have my section defined here. And I'm now appending it here. And I'm doing it one at a time because we're for eaching over it. It's going to run this here 20 times. Element changes each one of those times to the next item in that array. A lot easier than doing a for loop.
Could you remove the previous page when you click next? A lot more code.
Yeah, it is actually a lot more code, and I think that I did that on my previous video, so I might post that as well, because that's a different point of view.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out a way where it wasn't going to take literally 2 full hours to get to this point,
Yeah.
and I chopped 30 minutes off, for example, to remove 2 buttons. But yeah, I'll post both videos because that one was kind of epic.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I had a lot of people who really liked that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if I just wanted to like say, oh, well, Brian, we need you to add an image. Okay, I can add an image. So we'll do image equals document dot create element, and we want an img tag. So now if I wanted to do, say, we'll do character dot, and we can just open this up and we can see that there is an image here. So avatar 21, for example. So we can just type image, and then we'll probably want an alt tag. We'll just put the name in for that, right? So if I append this, so article.append child, and then put in our image, we should get an image now. So if I save this, refresh the page, now we've got images. And then if I go more, it goes and puts more in. If you haven't seen the series, it's very interesting. It's one of my favorites. So you can see that if your boss said, hey, I need an image on this, this page is horrible. If we don't have images, we're going out of business. Put an image on it now. And in 4 lines, I put images for every single character that comes off that database. So that's the power of being able to do it this way versus, like, I always get the argument, well, you know, I can program it faster in HTML. Sure you can. Positive you can. Wait till we get to React and you won't think that way anymore. Because it's almost like writing HTML. Little weirder, but you'll get used to it. So let's do a little CSS styling. So if I inspect this, there's a lot of things that could be desired. So like for one, I don't have any class names. I don't have anything to really determine what is what on this, right? So like the section doesn't have a class. These articles don't have a class. And so that's a little weird from a styling perspective. So let's go ahead and put in some stuff on section. So we're going to do class list add, and we'll say character section, right? So if I save this, you can see now we have a class of character section. And let's say that we wanted to put one on our article, for example. What if I wanted to do I don't know. What would be a good one? So we'll call it a card. So character card, like that. So I save this. All of these are the same class here. If I wanted to, for an example, put in a number in here, because we could do a number as well. We could do what if we were to use our backticks and do something like card dash, and then we'll do character.id. So if we look at character.id, in here, you'll notice that the ID here is like 14, 15. So each one of these will have another card ID. So like, let's say that every, on card number 14, we want to make it so the background is blue. We could. So we could hyper target each individual card. Kind of like, why did it have to be boxes from the last one? So, oh, add. Definitely use add.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive, man. It's late. All right, so we've got card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4, etc. through card 20. And if you'll notice, if I scroll here and then I click on more, we got 21. Notice how we're getting this, and this is generated from that database. So I just string interpolated, and now I have 2 classes on this. So if I wanted to target one exact card, I could. I could even get more advanced if I wanted to, and I don't feel like going far enough. Like I could hyphenate, the names and stuff. So, when it came to, ants in my eyes Johnson, that would be, ants -in -my -eyes Johnson class. And I could make it so it only happens on ants in my eyes Johnson, whatever I wanted to do. Like, I don't know, make it so he's shaking or something.
Isn't that the same thing as targeting the ID?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm.
But we're just using something unique that's generated.
Yeah.
You could even make it so that you add in an ID of that name. You'd still need to try to make it so that it's like hyphenated or whatnot. Otherwise, you're going to have serious problems. But yeah.
Cool.
So let me close that. Let's do some styling, as I threatened before. And go back to ours. So we have character section. That's pretty boring. So we want dot character section, and let's display flex. So I'm gonna have to refresh. That not display flex. Oh, we've never connected it. That's why. We need to link it. So we're going to do a link CSS, and it's going to be index.css. It's in the same directory, so it should be fine. So now I've got them lined side by side and side scrolling till the end of time. Not what we want, especially when you click on more. It's going to make it so you have to side scroll like crazy. Yep. So what if we were to add something just to cheat here, and we did something like flex wrap? Hey, that works. It's even sort of responsive with 4 lines of CSS. Still not all that great. So let's do what was the name of our
Character card, I think.
Yeah, a character card. That's what it was. So we'll do dot character card, and let's put a little bit of padding. We'll just say 1 rem, so they're kind of spaced apart from each other. That looks pretty good. Maybe do something with the images, like character card image, and we'll do border. Not a border. We'll do border radius 50% because they're square. I've got this. The text kind of sucks because it's not centered. So I guess probably what we could do is we could go crazy on flex. and then change it to a select direction column. And then if I wanted to center it, that would be, so we've got justify content would be normally how you would center something. Now, since we changed to column, we've got a cross, we've got a,
Align items, right?
yeah, so we'd use line items. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and Google search because my CSS foo is not very good at the moment. So there is a even selector. I think it's nth child selector. But they have one where you just type in like odd. Yeah, odd or even. So what we could do is we could do character card colon nth child even, and then do like background color. Let's find something horrible. Bisque. That sounds horrible. We'll do blanched almond and see what that looks like. Yeah, see? Now we got a checkerboard pattern.
Wait, what does nth child do again?
So nth child, since this is a selector, it's looking for every character card. So in this case, every character card is all of our articles. So in this case, we have 20 of them until we reload it. And it's looking for, in this case, every even one. So like if I change this to odd, for an example, now it's only doing the odd card. So this is our first character card here. And then so our second one is here, our third one is here, fourth one is here, etc. So if I did even, then it's going to be over here. So the first one has, that styling is not applied. The second one, because it's even, is, third one is odd, fourth one's even, like that. And so as you make it go bigger, it will separate them out to different things based off of how it flexes.
Oh, so you're just saying every other child.
Yeah, so some separation and some what's that?
So I think I've seen it used in JavaScript. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, that so basically anytime you see an nth child selector inside of JavaScript or testing libraries or anything else, everything is basically a CSS selector. So if you're doing testing, you select it the exact same way you would CSS. So if you know CSS, you can get away with absolute murder with this stuff. So let's do more. More again. I'm afraid. And this next one I gotta click fast. That's Evil Summer. It's the next one that's got the, yeah, next. There's a lot of things that are not particularly great on this for not safe for work content. So, but it's a fun API. It's fantastic. Shows great with air quotes. So now you can see we ran into a little bug on styling here. Notice how this is so long that it's pushing out our format. So what we might do is we might do like a max width of 300 on our characters or on our character card. So we'll just set a width, 300 pixels. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so notice how this guy's here, but our H2 is no longer looks centered. So let's see if we can do something like character card H2. And I think this is text, yeah, center. Yeah, that looks. Yeah, so now that's more centered whenever it wraps. Mr. Meeseeks, fantastic. So you can just, yeah, it's nice and easy to go through and check. It's responsive as well. So you know, if we went to like a phone size or something, we'll say here, iPhone 12 Pro. That's what it would look like on an iPhone 12 Pro. But if you'll notice, it's kind of like not centered as well. So what we might end up doing is something like shrink this down a little bit. If we look at the original one, we have this body, right? And this container. And so what we might do is something like body display flex depth by content center. And I think I need to put this as a width of 100%. That even didn't work. It's back. Now we're going to start getting into geeky CSS stuff. So we've got our main. Oh yeah, it was the body that we did that on. This one here should be centering it. Our main is 100%. Our section is not 100%. So it's our section class character section. We'll do 100%. And then we're going to do that's a little better. Yeah, there we go. Page up. There we go. And this still doesn't look good, the H1. So let's go ahead and do our H1 as center. There. So that looks a little bit better. Maybe put some header padding. There we go. Almost looked professional.
Besides the background color.
Yeah, it's just there to be, I guess, Noctua-ish.
Just kidding.
If you're into the old, we should make the other ones like a brown. Just
Even
be
better.
super garish.
Yeah.
So we'll do so like character card and child, and we're going to do odd, and then color.
Wait, is our sprint gonna start blank like this?
Sort of.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh
cool.
man, that is horrible.
It's amazing.
That is nasty. It's
Wait,
like,
I'm guessing we just have a little bit of instructions. Like you had nothing.
yeah,
just a little bit of-
it's not anything I would worry too much about.
yeah.
So
Not
let's
too weird.
see if we can go all the way down. I want to see if I can get all 42 pages. More, 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 more. Purple Morty. Yeah, I must have missed that one.
Wait, is this stuff like the building blocks for React, or is React like completely different?
This is
Kind of, sort
there's like one thing that you'll use in React that you learned this week, but I can tell you that I've made more money since graduating doing this than I have doing React.
Oh wow.
But
Is
React
that
will teach you
freelancing,
how
or
to.
is that like jobs?
It's job. It's a
Real
contract
jobs?
that I do in the morning. So,
Oh, okay, okay.
but wow, that's a lot of clicking. Oh man, that's how many of these? I wonder if I'm getting it rate limited.
Wait, doing what you just did here, really?
Yeah, I'm wondering. I
No,
don't
no,
think
like you've made more money just doing this simple little, like not simple.
Oh no,
but
no, no. Like
It's complex.
yeah, so like if you notice the butter robot is the last one, so I can keep on clicking more, and this is going to come back with these errors. It says bad request. So it's not returning any data. So because it's not returning any data, it's not running the function. And so this is all of the characters. Look over here that are available. Still scrolling.
It might have been easier if you weren't in mobile.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I take it out of mobile, it'll definitely be faster. So I go like this and full screen it, and maybe make it so it's
Beautiful.
yeah. So that's zoomed as small as I can get it. Yeah, I'm totally screenshotting that. Screenshot.
Wait, how do you screenshot on Windows? I'm between Windows and Mac all the time too. I don't know how to use Windows.
Windows Shift S.
All right, cool.
And it'll either have a snip tool or it won't. I haven't figured out exactly what the difference is between ones that do the snip tool and ones that don't. But basically it just puts it into your clipboard, and then you just like paste it for an example. So like I go and reply and thread in the Bloomtech thing, I can paste that in here and you'll see it.
All right, cool. Because I just Windows print screen, but it prints all my screens, and I look silly. It's like I gotta.
Yeah, so Windows Shift S allows you to draw a little bounding box. So it's kind of like what is it? Command Shift 4?
Yeah, or 3.
3. I don't remember what it is on the Mac. Something like that. Maybe it's Option Shift. I think it's Command.
No, it is Command. Command. Yeah, I think
Command Shift
3.
4.
Yeah, it's Command Shift 4.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, for the snippet. For the snippet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just. Yeah.
So I bounce it back and forth between them. My work computer's a MacBook, but this is like my gaming rig that I seem to do a lot of these development things on instead of playing games on. So, but yeah, so these are all of the characters with a really tiny more button down here at the corner. It does say more. I can't read it. But yeah, we went full Noctua on the build. Let's see here. We've got I think that's it for that. Let's do, let me shrink this down a little bit. And I think I want to just one last little thing on the odd ones. I want to lighten the text color so that it's more contrast. And we'll just do blank almond on that, I guess. Yeah, so that looks slightly better. It's 90. There's 100%. That's the scale that we're at. So a nice responsive page that will work on mobile and on everything else, assuming it has a web browser. And you could just continue to scroll forever until you get to the end of the page, that is. And this one is my favorite, is Snuffles. Love that dog. Okay, so I guess I'm going to stop the recording and we'll do some questions and answers.